My dear friends, myself, Shautrik Chatterjee, your history teacher. Now I am going to start your first chapter of class 8. The name of the chapter is Where, When and How India and the Modern World. At first, I will discuss about the introduction. The history of a country is divided into the ancient, medieval and modern period. All of you know, in class 6 you have already read about the ancient period, in class 7 you have read about medieval period, and now in class 8 you will read about the modern period. This year you will learn about the modern period of Indian history. This is usually considered to begin with the conquest of India by the British in the 18th century, extending till India became independent. Basically, in this year, you will read about the when British came into India. At first, British came into India for business. Then they started to capture the Indian state. And all of you know, they ruled India 200 years. So total period in this year we will discuss. Basically, according to the timeline or according to the time period, previous class you already know that medieval history end in the year of 1707. So the modern Indian history start from 1707, means after the death of Aurangzeb, to till date. But basically in this year we will read about how Britishers came into India, how they ruled over India, and then the Indian nationalist movement. So many nationalist movement happened at that time. The role of Mahatma Gandhi, the role of Jawaharlal Nehru, the role of Subhash Chandra Bose. So in this year we will discuss about that. However, the demarcation of modern history differs from the country to country. So, the division of the history is different in different country. Like in Europe, after the Industrial Revolution, means 1750 onwards, the modern history period started in Europe. But in our area, basically the period, the British period. So in different country they divided history, ancient medieval period and the modern period according to their incident. So now we will discuss features of the modern age. The modern age was a period of great and sweeping changes. The feature of the modern age were, so the modern age, some very important features are there for being a modern age. So now we will discuss about the features of the modern age. Number 1, industrialization. The large scale production of goods in factories using machines and power. So industrialization basically called when the large scale of production occurred by the using of machines and power. This is called industrialization. So industrialization is a basic factor of the modern age. Next, urbanization. All of you know industrialization happened means automatically urbanization will be occurred. Means, what is the meaning of urbanization? The movement of people from village to towns and cities in search of a better quality of life. So in search of better quality of life, when people started to move from village area to the town area or the city based area, this is called the urbanizations. So all of you know maximum factory grow up in the city based area, maximum industry grow up in the city based area. So for search of job, for search of better life, the village people usually come from the village area to the town area. So this is the process which is called the urbanizations. Next, the another feature is nationalism. Nationalism means strong feeling of love, pride and loyalty that people have of their country. Or you can say the strong feeling of love towards your country, that is called the nationalism. So all of are Indian and there is a huge love towards our country. So nationalism means the strong feeling of love, pride. So all of you feel very pride that we are Indian, and the loyalty that the people have for their country is called the nationalism. Next feature is the democracy, the government by the people. So democracy means the government by the people. In civics also you know the democracy is a system when a government elected by the people is called the democracy, or government by the consent, where the all peoples get right to vote for their government. This is called the democracy. People's voting right should be secure in the democratic system. Next point is the socialism. Socialism means equal distribution of wealth. Socialism a huge concept. Later I will discuss in class 9, I will discuss elaborately, but basically socialism means equal distribution of wealth, where nobody is rich peoples and nobody is poor people, the equal distribution of wealth. Next, another feature of modern age is the scientific and the technological progress. New inventions and discoveries that revolutionized human life. So this is all related. Scientific and the technological progress. So after the, if you see the European condition, then you relate the total incident. At first in Europe the Renaissance happened. Renaissance, what is Renaissance? Next slide we will discuss. Renaissance means rebirth. When the Renaissance happened, then the thinking level changed. When the thinking level changed, when people started to question to the authority, when people started to think rationally, then automatically scientific revolution happened in Europe. And when the scientific revolution happened in Europe, then automatically the industrializations occurred. Scientific revolution means the new machines discovered, and when new machines discovered means the industrialization happened. And through the scientific and technological progress, new invention and discoveries that revolutionized the human life, changed the human life. Next we will discuss the exploration, the search for new lands and sea routes. All of you know, I think, in the year of 1498, Vasco da Gama came to India. Okay, so at that time there was no concept of sea route from Europe to India. At first time Vasco da Gama invented the route, explored the route, sea route to reach the India. Before that Columbus tried, but he failed. But finally Vasco da Gama reached India in the year of 1498 and he found the sea routes from Europe to India. So explorations also one of the features of modern age. Next is humanisms, a greater concern of human welfare, dignity and values. The main word is welfare. All of you know now a very critical situation is going on in our country, not only in our country, all over the world. The COVID-19 pandemic is going on. So now all are basically the who are the upper middle class people or middle class people, all are helping for the poor people. So many, all of you know, so many film artists, so many cricketers has already donated so many wealth, some on 1 crore, some on 50 lakhs. But that film artist, that common people, that cricket player do not know individually of the people. But as a humanity, from the humanism, they donated for the people's welfare. That is called the humanism. Humanism means a love towards the people, and this love not dependent on the barrier, means this love can be happen for the different country also. The universal brotherhoodness means one boy of France, one boy of Germany, one boy of America, they also my brother, our brother. This is called the universal brotherhoodness. So humanism means a greater concern of human welfare. When people think about the human, when government think about the welfare of the human, that is called the humanism. Now we will discuss the forces of changes. What were the forces that were responsible for the changes that characterized the modern age? What were the important forces that changed to the modern age? Number 1, Renaissance. Number 2, Industrial Revolution. Number 3, American and the French Revolution. And number 4, nationalism. At first, we will discuss the Renaissance. The Renaissance was a movement that started in the 14th century in Italy. Renaissance was a movement that started in the 14th century in Italy. Renaissance means rebirth. Renaissance means rebirth. Punarjanam. The thinkers of this period shout to rediscover and revive the learning of the ancient Greeks and Romans. Actually, before the Renaissance, there was a Ottoman Turkey dynasty ruled over Greek. But before the Ottoman Turkey dynasty, in ancient Greek was a very rich culture. So many cultural development happened at that time. But when the Ottoman Turkey started to rule over Greek and Roman, from that time, that culture started to decline. After that, when Greece got freedom, from that time, they started to rediscover or revive their old rich culture. This is called the Renaissance. One good things was there at that time, but after that one bad period came, and after the end of the bad period, when again the new thinking, when again the old rich culture started to discover, this is called the Renaissance, means rebirth. पहले एक अच्छा पीरियड था, बीच में खराब हो गया, फिर जब अच्छा चीज स्टार्ट होता है, दिस इज कॉल्ड द Renaissance और rebirth. The Renaissance gave rise of the scientific method of inquiry. So, due to this Renaissance incident, people started to think according to the scientific method, or people started to think logically. Before that, there was a church domination. People had no right to think scientifically. People had no right to question towards the church. But after the Renaissance, the people got right to question the church. People got right to think logically and scientifically. It encouraged questions, old beliefs and the superstitions. Superstition means Kusanskar. So it encouraged, this Renaissance encouraged questions, the old beliefs that was basically illogical. So this Renaissance encouraged questions, old beliefs and the superstitions, and people started to think logically. Next we will discuss the Industrial Revolution. This is very important. The Industrial Revolution, IR, I have mentioned in this PPT, short name I full stop R. The Industrial Revolution means a sweeping change in methods of production brought about by mechanizations in the 18th century. So Industrial Revolution means a sweeping change, very fast change in methods of production brought about by mechanizations in the 18th century. So through mechanical development, a huge change occurred in the method of production. Before the Industrial Revolution, there was a handicapped industry. Handicapped industry means through hand, there was no machines. So at that time, means handicapped time, there was a very less number of production, because that was very time taking process. But Industrial Revolutions means through the machine productions. Through the machine means at that time machine changed the production methods, or through the machine the huge number of production started. This is called the Industrial Revolution, a sweeping change in method of production brought about by mechanizations in the 18th century. The Industrial Revolution basically started in Britain around the 1750. So Industrial Revolution basically started in Britain around the 1750. Explorations of sea routes led to an expansion in trade. So Industrial Revolution happened. After the Industrial Revolutions, expansion of trade happened. Why? Because Industrial Revolution means production increased. Production increased means surplus production. Surplus means extra. You can say surplus means extra. जितना प्रोडक्शन जरूरी था उससे अगर ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन होता है, that is called the surplus production. So when surplus production occurred, so what happened? Expansion of trade. Why expansion of trade? Suppose in India, 9 crore peoples, sorry, suppose in a country, 9 crore peoples or 10 crore peoples are there, but the production rate or production number around 20 crore, means 10 crore production excess. So for business, so or for export of these 10 crore goods, you have to expand your market. And for this reason, you have to search the new market. And you have to search the market, you have to find the sea routes. So all are interrelated. So when Industrial Revolution happened, at that time expansion of trade happened. And why expansion of trade happened? Because we have already seen the main features of the modernization, the exploration of sea routes. And through the exploration of sea routes led to an expansion of trade. And due to expansion of trade, demand of production increased. So all of you know, England established their colony in India. they started to sell their products in India. When in India demand increased, at that time in England production also increased. So all are related. So due to the expansion of trade, demand for product also increased. And due to demand increased, the old domestic system was replaced by the factory system. So before that, what system was there? The domestic system, means the handicapped system. घर में बैठ के जो लोग हाथ से काम करता था, that is called the domestic system. So due to demand increased, so old domestic system was replaced by the factory system. बहुत ज़्यादा डिमांड है मार्केट में, तो बहुत ज़्यादा जो डिमांड है वो फुलफिल करने के लिए तुमको क्या करना पड़ेगा? बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन करना पड़ेगा, और बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन करने के लिए तुमको क्या करना पड़ेगा? फैक्ट्री में प्रोडक्शन करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि फैक्ट्री में सबसे ज़्यादा सबसे जल्दी प्रोडक्शन होता है. सो वेयर लार्ज मशीन नाउ प्रोड्यूस्ड मच मोर ऑफ द सेम प्रोडक्ट्स फास्टर एंड एट ए फ्रैक्शन ऑफ कॉस्ट. एंड मशीन मेड प्रोडक्शन और ये जो फैक्ट्री सिस्टम है, इसका सबसे बड़ा जो एडवांटेज है, ये लार्ज मशीन यूज होता है इस प्रोडक्शन में. एंड इसके सबसे साथ और एक जो इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, दैट वाज वेरी वेरी फास्टर, मीन्स बहुत ज़्यादा बहुत जल्दी प्रोडक्शन होता है. एंड द कॉस्ट ऑल्सो वेरी लेस. So when the demand increased, the old domestic system, means the handicapped system, was replaced by the factory system, where in factory large machines now produced much more of the same products faster and at a fraction of cost, very little cost. The Industrial Revolution completely changed the way of people lived. So the Industrial Revolutions played a very very important role in our society, that completely changed the way of people lived. So one term is interrelated with the Industrial Revolution, that is the colonialism. The result of Industrial Revolution was the growth of colonialism. This is very very interrelated. The result of Industrial Revolution was the growth of colonialism. What is the definition? The policy of acquiring other countries as colonies, that is called the colonialism. The policy of acquiring other countries. Just see the past condition of India. The Britain acquired our country. That means India was a colony of Britain, and this process is called the colonialism. But why colonialism started? Due to Industrial Revolution. Due to Industrial Revolution, factories were producing goods on a large scale. What the previous slide I have just mentioned, the surplus product. Due to Industrial Revolution, factories were producing goods on a large scale. For such a large market where these goods to be sold, ये जो surplus product हो रहा है, वो surplus product बेचने के लिए तो मार्केट चाहिए. तो इसलिए for such a large market, ये मार्केट ढूंढने के लिए जहाँ पे ये surplus सामान बेचेगा, एंड फॉर सच ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल्स, एक इंडस्ट्री चलाने के लिए रॉ मटेरियल्स बहुत ज़रूरी है. और तुम लोगों की पता भी है, so many industry in England, they collected their raw materials from India. So both important for such a large market and for such or for collect raw materials, colonialism was started by Britain and other European countries. So at first, who started colonialisms? The Britain started, and after that all other European countries started the colonialism system. So why colonialism started? Due to the Industrial Revolution. Why? Because due to the Industrial Revolution, what happened? The production increased. The large scale production happened. Large scale production means the surplus. Surplus means extra. So for search of large market, why for search of large market? Because the surplus goods to be sold. And for search of raw materials or for collect of raw materials, colonialism was started by Britain and other European countries. Now I will discuss the American and the French revolutions. Sorry, one spelling mistake is there. That should be French Revolution. The heading. The American and the French revolutions were responsible for the changes. The ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity developed from French Revolution. In class 9 you will read detailed, because one chapter is there, the name of the chapter is French Revolution, but you just know the basic idea of French Revolution was the liberty, equality and fraternity. What is the meaning of liberty? Liberty means freedom, equality means all are equal, and fraternity means brotherhoodness. So these three ideology developed after the French Revolution, and that changed the lives of millions of people across the world. Why? Because at that time, in maximum European country, basically, there was no idea of liberty, there was no idea of fraternity. So after the French Revolution, people started to think about liberty, equality and fraternity. People of many countries were inspired to rebel against dominations and to fight for freedom and democracy. So many countries at that time was under control by the other countries. Like India was under control by the British. So through this ideology, or through the idea of liberty, equality and fraternity, people of many countries were inspired. Indians also inspired. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, I think all of you heard the name. The Raja Ram Mohan Roy was very much inspired by this French Revolution's ideology. And after that, he wrote so many books in English or Bengalis for inspiring the people. Because all of you know, at that time, India was under the British rule. So through this three ideology, people were inspired and they were very much influenced to fight for freedom and democracy. That also one of the main feature of the modern age. Now we'll discuss the nationalism. Due to American and the French Revolution, the idea of nationalism developed in 19th century Europe. So in Europe, due to the American and the French Revolution, American independent movement happened before the French Revolution in the year of 1776, 1777 at that time, and after in the year of 1789 the French Revolution happened. And through that, these two revolution, the idea of nationalism developed in 19th century Europe. And what is the meaning of nationalism? Previously we have discussed, the nationalism is strong feeling of love, pride and loyalty towards the country. And it inspired Indians to fight for independence from British rules. All of you know, India was under the British control. And when the nationalism feelings developed among the common people of Indians, they also influenced, they also inspired this nationalism concept, and they started movement to fight for independence from the British people. So nationalism played a very, very important role to develop the feelings among the common people. So many items are there to develop for nationalism. All of you know the Bharat Mata picture. All of you know our national anthem. All of you know the Bande Mataram song. So those are the items through this items or through the song, through the this Bharat Mata picture, we were influenced, or our previous we were very much influenced through these pictures, through the song, and the Indian revolutionaries were ready to fight for independence from the British people. Now I will discuss the next point, the India in the modern world. After the Aurangzeb's death in 1707, the Mughal Empire went into a rapid decline. All of you know, the previous class, in class 7 you have already read, after the death of Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire started to decline. The latter Mughal rulers did not have the capabilities to hold this vast empire together. For this reason, Maratha and Sikhs established their powerful kingdom. That point you also know. So the latter Mughal rulers were not capable. They were busy for entertainment. So for this reason, the decline started, and at that time the Maratha and Sikhs also established their powerful kingdom. You also know the rulers of Hyderabad, Awadh, Carnatic and Bengal ruled independently over their province. In class 7 last chapter you have already read about the Hyderabad, about the Awadh, about the Bengal. So they were the independent province. But these new powers, what were the problems? But these new powers constantly fought for supremacy among themselves. They were busy to fight. Why? For supremacy among themselves. ये जो इतना छोटा छोटा इंडिपेंडेंट स्टेट तैयार हुआ, ये जो मराठा सिक्स जो पावरफुल किंगडम तैयार हुआ, लेकिन प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पे था, किसी का साथ किसी का दोस्ती नहीं था. क्यों नहीं था? क्योंकि हर ग्रुप, हर किंगडम, हर इंडिपेंडेंट प्रोविंस सोचता था वो पूरा इंडिया को रूल करेगा. फॉर दिस रीजन they were busy for fight, or they constantly fought for supremacy among themselves. In this time, merchants from Europe began establishing trading bases along Indian coast. इसी time में, these times, all of you know, in the time of Jahangir, the Europeans, basically the Britishers, got right to establish their factory in Surat. But at that time, so many European companies, not only the British East India Company, so many European companies established their trading base along Indian's coast. And in the course of time, the Europeans took advantage of the rivalries among the Indian rulers and made their own bases stronger. So European got an opportunity. Europeans saw the Indians rulers were busy. Why they were busy? Because they fought for supremacy among themselves. वो लोग अपना अपना से अंदर लड़ाई कर रहा है. And Europeans took this advantage of the rivalries among the Indian rulers. ये जो इंडियन रूलर्स था, उस लोगों का एक दूसरे के अंदर जो राइवलरीज था, इसका अपॉर्चुनिटी को यूरोपियन लिया एंड दे मेड देयर ओन बेसेस स्ट्रॉन्गर. वो लोग धीरे धीरे अपना अपना जो बेस था वो और ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग करने लगा. The Europeans also fought among themselves for control over the highly profitable trade with the India. All of you know, not only the British East India Company came, the French company came, the Dutch company came, the Portuguese came. They also fought among themselves. Who will control over the highly profitable trade with India? So many European companies came into India at that time. and they also started fight among themselves for control over the highly profitable trade with India. Soon, the British had established themselves as the main power in India. Finally, the British had established themselves as the main power of India. British own. So many wars happened between the British East India Company and the French. What happened between the British and the Dutch? Dutch means present day Holland or Netherlands. So finally the British had established themselves as the main power in India. Within 100 years, they had moved from being mere traders to being the rulers of the Indian subcontinent. So, at first, Britishers or British East India Company came as a traders, but within 100 years, they became rulers of Indian subcontinent. So, in this year, you will learn about the impact of 200 years of British rule in India, and also how the Indians came together to fight for their freedom and how India finally became a free country in 1947. So, we will learn the impact of 200 years of British rule. Then we will learn how Indians came together and fight for their freedom. And finally, how India became free, or how India got freedom in the year of 1947. So, our main subject matter of class 8. Here, I have given, now I will discuss the sources of information of modern Indian history. Source. How historians wrote this history, or how did historians write the modern Indian history. So all of you know, in class 6 you have read, in class 7 you have read, now also you are reading. The sources is a very, very important, the most important part of to write history. Without the sources, without the evidence, we cannot say this is history. So, for that reason, there is two types of sources: the primary sources and the secondary sources. I have given two different picture. Primary sources, that is originally, and secondary sources, that is not original. Let's see, discuss. The first, primary sources, I have given a very, very important original copy for your information. This is the final judgment of Bhagat Singh. फाइनल जो ऑर्डर हुआ था भगत सिंह का जजमेंट का, इस लेटर में उसका जो फांसी का आदेश हुआ था, ये ओरिजिनल लेटर that was issued by the superintendent of the jail 1931, you can see also. Now at first we will discuss the primary sources. A primary source is an original, the first hand or eyewitness account offering in an inside view. The most important part, primary source is an original, first hand or eyewitness. In content, new information, new at the time it was created. New at the time it was created. That has not been interpreted, evaluated and condensed. जो इंफॉर्मेशन को इंटरप्ट नहीं हुआ, एवेलुएट भी नहीं हुआ, और जो इंफॉर्मेशन उस टाइम तैयार हुआ, जब वो इंसिडेंट हुआ, उस टाइम जो इंसिडेंट हुआ, दैट इज कॉल्ड द प्राइमरी सोर्स. लाइक ये जो पहला जो पिक्चर हम लोग देखा भगत सिंह का जो फाइनल जजमेंट, ये एक ओरिजिनल है. जज इस जजमेंट को ओरिजिनली एक पेपर में लिखा था. ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट है, मतलब जजमेंट जब हुआ उस दिन ही ये डॉक्यूमेंट तैयार हुआ, दैट इज कॉल्ड द प्राइमरी सोर्स, द फर्स्ट हैंड डॉक्यूमेंट, द आई विटनेस डॉक्यूमेंट. Such sources are usually created during or very close to the time. This is very important line. bold this line. Such sources are usually created during or very close to the time. उसी टाइम जो चीज लिखा होता है of the events they report on. So these are the basic features of primary source. The author of a primary sources typically provides direct impressions of events he or she is reporting on. Another important features, the author of the primary source typically provides the direct impression. जो इंसिडेंट सामने हो रहा है वो इंसिडेंट देख के जो लिख रहा है, दैट इज द डायरेक्ट इंप्रेशन ऑफ इवेंट्स ही और शी इज रिपोर्टिंग ऑन. These are the primary source. Primary source means first hand, original, totally original. This is called the primary source. And examples, government reports, letter, photographs, newspaper, diaries, all should be original, is called the primary source. A lot of this material has been preserved in government museum and archives. Nowadays also. This document is nowadays also preserved. This is the final judgment of Bhagat Singh. This is preserved in the National Archives of India in Delhi. The original final judgment of Bhagat Singh. So this is called the primary sources. Here I have given so many examples for your development of thinking, for create your interest in history. Just see primary sources, the original letters. Left side one letter is there, letter of Jawaharlal Nehru, the original handwritten by Jawaharlal Nehru. You can see the signature of Jawaharlal Nehru also. And another one, another letter of Bhagat Singh, the appeal of Bhagat Singh to the court. फाइनल जो अपील किया था उस अपील भगत सिंह का नीचे सिग्नेचर है एंड ही इज अपीलिंग टू द जज. सो दिस इज द ओरिजिनल वन हैंडरिटन लेटर ऑफ भगत सिंह. नेक्स्ट अनदर वन प्राइमरी सोर्स, फोटोग्राफ्स इज ऑल्सो इंक्लूड द प्राइमरी सोर्स. द ओरिजिनल फोटोग्राफ, दिस इज महात्मा गांधी इज देयर, नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस इज देयर. So original photograph, this is our primary sources. And another one, the newspaper. This is the newspaper of 1947, 16 August. Means after the day of Indian independence. इंडिया जिस दिन इंडिया का फ्रीडम मिला उसका नेक्स्ट दिन जो न्यूज़पेपर था, उस ओरिजिनल न्यूज़पेपर का क्लिप्स मैंने यहाँ पे दिया. इंडिया इंडिपेंडेंट, ब्रिटिश रूल एंड्स. सो द नेक्स्ट डे ऑफ इंडियन इंडिपेंडेंस, ओरिजिनल न्यूज़पेपर पेज. दिस इज ऑल्सो द प्राइमरी सोर्सेस. अनदर प्राइमरी सोर्सेस, left side, the court records, the original court records is under the primary sources. Here you can read the total letter or order records, but in below part I have mentioned the 26th amendment to the constitutions guarantees the right to vote for 18 years old in USA. So USA का 26 amendment है, जिस amendment में 18 ईयर्स का ऊपर जो बच्चा है उसका वोटिंग राइट मिला. उसका जो ओरिजिनल ऑर्डर ऑफ यूएस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस वेयर दे ग्रांटेड द वोटिंग राइट और राइट टू वोट फॉर 18 ईयर्स ओल्ड इन द यूएसए. And another creative works, also the primary sources, the novel, plays, poems, all under the primary sources, but that should be the original handwritten poem by Rabindranath Tagore. This is the handwriting of Rabindranath Tagore in the year of 1923 January. He wrote this poem and you can see the signature of Rabindranath Tagore also. This is the letter. This is the original photographs and newspapers. This is the court records. that I have mentioned just, and this is the creative works of Rabindranath Tagore. Now I will discuss a secondary source. A secondary source provides the second-hand information that has been digested, analyzed, reordered, and or interpreted. Secondary sources means second-hand information that is analyzed. Means, example, your book, your history book is a secondary source, because at first historians saw the original documents. After that, historians wrote one book, and from that book, this book was written. So, this is the second hand or secondary source. Means that is not original. Secondary sources are often written well after the events they report on, and can put past information into its historical context. So secondary sources are often written well after the events they report on. Means one incident happened, but after 10 years, he was writing, or he is writing the incident. So that is the secondary source of information, because that incident not written at that time when the primary source means the incident happened, and during this time what is written, this is the primary source. But secondary source are often written well after the events they report on, and can put past information into its historical context. Example are textbooks, biographies, magazine, movies about the historical events. Examples: secondary source, magazine. One magazine I have given the picture. Magazines are the secondary sources. So one historical incident happened. After that, one historian wrote anything in the magazine. So that article will be the secondary source. Biography. The Mahatma Gandhi biography that was written by Ramchandra Guha, that is the secondary sources. But autobiography is always the primary sources. Next, the books, newspaper and magazine. The printing press, which was invented in Germany in the 15th century. Gutenberg, who at first invented the press, and came into the common use in India in the 18th century by Portuguese. So printing press was invented in Germany by Gutenberg, and this technology came to India for common use in the 18th century by the Portuguese traders. This resulted in the mass printing of books, newspaper, magazines and pamphlets, which are important sources of information today. So all are the very, very important sources of information today. So through the press, what happened? Printing of books, printing of newspapers, printing of magazines, printing of pamphlets. So without printing press, that was not possible. So printing press had a very, very vital impact in our society. Many biographies of the great people were written, which gave us authentic information about the people and the times in which they lived. So biographies are very, very important, and that is the very, very authentic informations of the people. Next, another is very, very important, that is the government documents. Here I have given two pictures. Right side the National Museum picture, this is situated in New Delhi, and another one is Indian Museums, that is situated in Kolkata, where the original documents are kept. The British officials were very, very particular about keeping proper records of all official transactions, government orders, acts and the other important decisions of the government, etc. So British officials were very, very particular. They kept kept the document, they kept our government order, acts very, very properly. They maintained records very, very properly. Hence, historians have a rich funds of the official British documents, official letters, survey maps, district gazetteers, and the census records, etc. Britishers were very, very proper, they maintained records very properly. For this reason, historians today are getting the official British documents, official letters very, very easily because they maintained record very properly. Many of these documents are now preserved in the National Archives of India, that is situated in New Delhi, at the National Museum, that also situated in New Delhi. So maximum documents, actually museum is not correct properly because the artifact is kept in museum. Artifact means, suppose one statue of Buddha, one stones, one's painting, those things are usually kept in museum. But the records, act, official documents, those are basically kept in the archives. And in our India, one central archives is there, that is called the National Archives of India, and individually in every state they maintain their state archives. Archives is our brain. Government Museum in Chennai, Mumbai and Kolkata also possesses original documents of that time. So some documents also there in museums. Chennai museums also there, Mumbai also very important museum, and Calcutta museum is very, very famous. And they also maintained the original documents. Now we will discuss one brief information. This is not in your book. We will discuss about something about the National Archives of India. Very, very important. Our head. This is our heritage. National Archives of India. This is our heritage. The National Archives of India is a repository of the non-current records of the Government of India and holds them in trust of the use of administrators and the scholars. Originally established as the Imperial Record Department in 1891 in Calcutta and the capital of British India. So at that time, all of you know, Calcutta was the British capital, and before that the institute name was the Imperial Record Department, that was established in 1891 in Calcutta, because Calcutta was the capital of British India. So what is National Archives? Now the name is National Archives of India, and National Archives of India is a repository of the non-current records. Repository means a storage place of the non-current records. Why non-current records? Because when a record created after the 25 years, that come to National Archives of India. For this reason, it is called the non-current record. There is some discussion needed for clarify, but no need. Basically, the National Archives of India is a repository of the non-current records of the Government of India and holds them in a trust of the use of administrator and the scholar. People had the right. People means authorized. You have to kept the authorized letter, or if you are a student of university, you can see the record or you can read the record. The Imperial Record Department was set up on 11 March 1891 in Calcutta. G.W. Forrest was named as department head. So G.W. Forrest was the departmental head who started this Imperial Record Department in Calcutta in 11 March. In 1911, it was transferred to the new capital, New Delhi. All of you know, 1911, the capital was transformed, and due to this reason, the Imperial Record Department also transferred. And in 1926, it was shifted into the new building. And finally, today, where the National Archives India, that area shifted in the year of 1926. This was one of the 4 museums and the archive buildings planned by its architect Edwin Lutyens around Point B in the city plan. So these buildings The planner of the building was the famous architect Edwin Lutyens. So British sirs were very proper to maintain the records. They maintained the records very properly. For this reason, when they shifted their capital, they established 4 buildings. Among them, one is National Archives of India, and other 3 is today, which is Rashtrapati Bhavan, another one today which is the Parliament House, another one today is the North Block and South Block. So they at first established the 4 building in New Delhi when they shifted their capital, and the architect was the Edwin Lutyens. The holding in the National Archives are in a regular series of starting from the year of 1748. All documents are there basically from the 1748. The language of the records include English, Arabic, Hindi, Persian, Sanskrit and Urdu, and their materials include paper, palm leaf, birch bark and the parchment. The 1748 before document also there, but that was not the regular series. So many documents are there from the Mughal period, the part which is written in Persian and Urdu, and some documents are there which is written in the palm leaf and the birch bark also. The records are in 4 categories. One is public record, one is oriental records. Oriental records includes basically the Mughal or Sultanate period record. Manuscript, which is the handwritten, and the private papers. Private paper means the original diaries or letters includes the private papers. Now we will finish our discussion. The last part, the historical buildings. The British build several buildings during their 200 years rule in India. They represent a style very different from that preferred by the medieval rulers of India. But also here is one point needed that is not mentioned. They also mixed up the style. Means they also kept the Mughal style and they also introduced their new Gothic style. So they mixed up the old Indian style with new British style. Some of them were built to mark important events of the time. For example, the imposing of the Gateway of India. The picture is there, the famous Gateway of India. Why that was built? That was built to commemorate the visit of King George V and Queen Mary to Bombay in 1911. So King George V and Queen Mary came to India in the year of 1911. So for commemorating them, this Gateway of India was built in Bombay or Mumbai. So thank you. We have just completed the first chapter. Next, I will also give some question answer or some questions, or you can make question answer from your books. So thank you.